Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and today we have an incredible list of guests and variety guests coming up. But first, somebody that's been, well, over 20 years. If I had a chance to talk to Ben Kinchlow, and we had a chance to connect with him yesterday via Skype to get caught up on a few things. And as you remember, he was the former original host of the 700 Club. Today he speaks, he writes books, he's all over the place. But what a delight to catch back up with Ben and have a conversation with him. So join me now as we talk to Ben Kinchlow. Well, today's one of those unusual days where I get to welcome to Focus Today somebody that I had talked to over 20 years ago when he first started with CBN and co-host of the 700 Club, a gentleman that I highly respect, followed his ministry. He's a minister, a broadcaster, an author, a businessman, and very passionate about getting the gospel out around the world. And I'm talking about none other than Ben Kinchlow, and he's with us today from his home there in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Hi, Ben. How you doing, my friend?
Outstanding, Perry. Thank you very much for having me on the program today, man. It's a pleasure to be back with you after all these years.
Well, I tell you, a lot going on. Listen, your former colleague, Pat Robertson, he's made some interesting comments lately about some of the things going on in America as it also relates in a correlation to some of the citizens' unrest in Egypt. Do you think it's time to maybe mount up something like that in the United States?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that you have to be very careful is people oftentimes take things out of context. You have to put things in the proper context, and you also have to understand what he was talking about specifically. First of all, he was not advocating that we get out and do what, you know, the millions of people did in Egypt. In other words, he is not advocating a coup or a violent overthrow of the United States government.
No.
That must be clearly understood.
Right, and I'm sorry I didn't make that clear at the beginning, but go ahead.
Well, no, there's some, but a lot of the things that you've seen on the internet and a lot of the reports you've seen seem to be indicating that Pat was advocating a violent revolution, an overthrow of our established government procedures by mob rule, and that is not what he was advocating in the least. Now, what he was saying, and sometimes I think we forget this, but you will remember in this month, just a few days ago, we celebrated something called Independence Day. Right. The 4th of July. Now, what the 4th of July is all about was something called the American Revolution. This was the people of the colonies rising up against injustice, and after having pleaded with the monarch, found that the only way they could do it was through armed revolution, and they did. Fortunately, they put in place a system that will enable us to change our government completely without resorting to violence. Right. And that's the thing that I think we sometimes forget as American citizens.
Well, you know, Ben, we're all frustrated by what's happening, and especially recently with this administration and some of their actions. It appears, Ben, that we're moving towards some kind of a lawlessness in this country, and I know we're all frustrated. How do we do this? How do we stop the nonsense, in your opinion?
Well, you know, Perry, if you go back and remember, the whole purpose of history is to show us the right way and the wrong way. Or by that, I mean to show us one way as opposed to another way. Right. In America, we have established a system that says government of the people, for the people, by the people. In other words, the United States is a system founded on governing citizens, not governing tyrants. In other words, the power rests with the people, not with the government. When I say the power, that means the ability to change things rests with and in the hands of the general population, and it is not to be misconstrued as being a few people at the top ruling over the masses.
All right, so it appears, however, we are getting into some kind of a the atmosphere of a tyrannical administration. They just seem to be doing what they want to do. They seem to be somewhat imperialistic in the rulings that they're doing, and to the point where they make a law and then they make an exception to the law. What are we citizens to do?
Well, you see, it's our fault. You remember the founding fathers put into the hands of the citizens something called the vote.
Right.
The people who serve are called public servants. That means that they are there to represent our positions, our views. Congress is established on the 2-4-6 rule. In other words, every 2 years, every 4 years, or every 6 years, depending on which office you hold, you have to come back and ask the American people for the privilege of going back and serving them again. And this works in the state, federal, and local government. The problem is we have turned away from this and put power in the hands of a few people, and we are letting them dictate to us how they think we ought to live. And it's our fault. If we don't like what they're doing, then every 2, 4, 6 years, vote them out, bring them back, and send somebody new in there.
Okay. And you probably, like me, Ben, have watched, unfortunately, the evangelical lack of voter registration, and those who are registered even didn't vote. I mean, if you add up the numbers of those who are eligible and those who were registered and didn't vote, we can sway any election in this country, but we don't seem to think that that's important anymore.
Well, the problem is we have been misinformed by our so-called Christian leadership. They have been telling us for decades that we are not supposed to be involved in politics. And so the average Christian, if you talk to the average Christian, he will tell you, well, that Christians shouldn't be involved in politics. It's dirty business. Nothing could be further from the truth. If anyone should be involved in putting truth to the forefront, it should be those people who are rooted and grounded in truth. You see, all of Western civilization, Perry, is founded on the Judeo-Christian principles articulated in the Bible.
Right.
And let me just point out something. A lot of people think the Bible is a religious book. The Bible is not a religious book. It's not about religion. And if you examine it dispassionately, what you'll find is that there are 7 references to religious or religion in the Bible. And of those 7 references, 6 of them are, shall we say, less than positive. In other words, there's only one positive reference to religion in the Bible. So even God doesn't establish religion. Religion is man's idea of how to please his concept of God. That's what religion is. What we are called upon to do is to live according to established precepts that provide liberty and justice for all. Remember what it says in the Declaration? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by the Creator with unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Boy, that's so beautifully said. So beautifully said. Do you think Christian leaders are beginning to sense now it's time to act?
I hope they are, but I'm afraid and unfortunately, some of them, as my dad, who was a preacher, used to say, is, Ben, you don't want to be so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good. And I'm afraid that what has happened in a lot of cases that we are now teaching and focusing on getting to heaven instead of understanding that once you are born again, then your purpose here is to influence society. That's why he said, you are the salt of the earth. Salt influences. Salt makes a difference. And that's why he left us here as the salt of the earth to make a difference. And this is why the greatest country in the history of the world is the United States of America, founded on Judeo-Christian principles.
All right, let me ask you a question that I know is quite controversial, and I don't mean to be. I just want your perspective, and that is, President Obama has often said he's a Christian, but his policies and the fruit of his labor seem to be anything but Christian. What do you think?
Well, you know, I'm not the one that said this, so if anybody's got any argument with this, they might want to take it up with the original author of the statement, which said, "By their fruits you shall know them." Mm-hmm. End of story.
Okay.
You don't pick peaches off of an apple tree and vice versa.
Over the weekend, we watched the George Zimmerman trial come to completion, and he was acquitted. And it appears now that the portions of our culture are still trying to make this a race trial. Did you ever think it was a race trial?
I thought the media and a lot of the people who are associated with it tried to make it into a race issue. You know, and just in the length of time since the Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin saga began, mm-hmm. in Chicago, more than 400 young blacks have been murdered. And the overwhelming majority of these young blacks in Chicago were murdered by other blacks. Now, have you seen anything at all where a trial or any such thing that would even begin to approximate the Zimmerman-Martin case come to fore about, isn't this terrible, all these young black men being killed in Chicago?
No, nothing. In fact, we coined another phrase. We're calling it white Hispanic. I mean, what in the world are we saying here?
As long as you can put white in there, the people who profit by racial animosity are the people who will gain by this. Let me just point out something. There are people in this country, and I know there are some people who doubt this, but there are people in this country who really want to destroy America. They do not like the concept of the American system. They want to destroy it. And if you will remember correctly, one of the things that Abraham Lincoln said was, a country divided against itself cannot stand. If these people who have at their heart the radical transformation of America, the changing of America, the destruction of the America we now understand, have their way, they will change our country into something they have a vision for. And the way they're trying to do that is to set the various and sundry American citizen groups against each other.
Wow.
So now, when I was a kid, we were all Americans, except blacks were discriminated against, but we changed that, and now here's what they're trying to do. Now they have Native Americans, African Americans, Chinese Americans, Italian Americans, and on and on and on, and now they have homosexual Americans, yada, yada, yada. In other words, where are the people that are one nation under God?
Wow. Ben, you're an inspiration. You haven't lost any of it. In fact, your fire's hotter than it's ever been.
Listen, man, I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of traveling to many foreign countries. I was in the Air Force for 13 years, and then after I got out to join the Black Revolution, Black Liberation Front, I got a chance to see some things, and then I met the Lord Jesus Christ, who transformed and changed my life. And since that time, I've also had a chance to go back and see a lot of different countries. And I want to say, without reservation, that this is the greatest country presently existing in the world. And I'll say this one last thing. If you go down and check the rosters of people trying to get into this country, the rosters go back for years. People are waiting years to get into America. I guarantee you there is no line, no waiting period for people who want to get out. If you don't like America, you can leave tomorrow.
Beautiful. You're an inspiration. I'd love to have you back more often. Thank you, my friend. And people that want to, do you have a website?
I do. It's called Ben Kinchlow, Kinchlow, benkinchlow.com. That's BenKinchlow.com.
Thank you, my friend. Many, many blessings on you. Keep up the good work. Stay in the fight, and let's talk again soon.
You do it too, Karen. Thanks for what you're doing, Perry. I appreciate it, man. We need more people and radio programs like yours. Thanks for having me.
All right. God bless you. What an inspiration. Speaking of which, we have another one live in the studio, and she's always a joy and an inspiration to have with us, Robin Fuller, next here on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
All right, we're back and delighted to have in the studio with us today Robin Fuller. She heads up the Grants Pass Pregnancy Care Center, and what a fired up lady in so many ways. And the work you do, thank you for all that you and your team do.
Thank you.
Day in and day out.
Thank you for your support.
Oh, yeah, we're delighted to be what we can to help. Well, listen, SB 490 went through the session, and it was quite threatening, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
What was it? What was it about?
Well, this is a Senate bill that was very carefully crafted. Some attorneys that I had look at it, or we had look at, were unconcerned at all. It looks very innocuous on the surface. But the way that it was written and some of the specific words were pretty difficult to define. So even Alliance Defending Freedom, they were waiting in the wings to help, and they're wonderful, but they were really concerned about this bill, written differently than any other bill has been written across the country. And what it would have done was bring the Oregon Health Authority basically in our business and in our organizations to have a say in what we do and how we do it.
Which is hypocritical as to what can happen inside an abortion clinic.
Yes, very much so.
So they wanted to overregulate you and almost deregulate them,
yes,
so to speak.
Well, they have no regulations.
Well, they have no regulations, nothing to dereg. So what happened?
Well, you know, we have a, this is our third go around. So back in 2007, the first time this happened, we had all the pregnancy centers came together, and we formed a coalition, which includes the Medford Center, you know, the Medford Pregnancy Center, and but we decided to work together and to talk amongst ourselves really about what would work best in our state, and working with the Oregon Right to Life and the Family Policy Council, and really understanding who our legislators are. Let's bring them into our centers. Let's make sure they know who we are and they trust who we are. And many of the Democratic senators, they like pregnancy centers and they like what we do, and they saw this legislation for what it was. It's just a bad bill, and really unfair. So I think that's why it died, why it didn't come back up. But we know it's going to come again because Oregon is so critical to what they want to do nationwide because of the makeup of the legislature.
And if that could possibly swing in another direction in 214, maybe things would slow down. But it's possible they could sneak it in on a special session. Yes,
they could. It's sitting in the Ways and Means Committee. That's where it stayed,
wow,
you know, was left. And my understanding, anything in the Ways and Means could come out at any time.
Anytime. So if they go into special session under the guise of PERS reform, while they're in these sessions, we know a lot of these bills can get attached. And I know that you and Gail and others will be certainly watching that carefully. So keep us posted. If we need to crank up the phones, we'll do it.
Yeah, we will.
All right. Well, anyway, some interesting things happening on the pro-life front across the country. We all watched with great interest what happened in Texas. And, of course, they filibustered it past the midnight hour, and they had to be carried over into a special session. But thank God for a very strong pro-life committed governor, Governor Perry, brought it back, and they got it through. But as easy as that sounds, that's not the case. I mean, there was some pretty tough moments during that debate, wasn't there?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone out there follows Abby Johnson. She's the she used to be a director of a Planned Parenthood, and came out of that after 8 years, and now she's really strongly pro-life. And she was there in Texas. She had been a director in Texas, and she was working very closely with everyone there. And she posted on Facebook regularly while she was there at the state legislature, and You may have seen some of the reports where the pro-life people were singing Amazing Grace, and then you would see the other side shouting Hail Satan. Yeah. And then it was interesting that the Satanists got upset that they were using Satan's name that way. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
You know, so I mean, it was interesting to watch, but it was towards the end of that special session, my understanding is they had to remove the pro-life people off site for concern for their safety. It was really, really intense there. And the legislators, you know, I'm sure they're still somewhat concerned because there were a lot of death tweets and, you know, people. Well,
there was potential danger in just the way people conducted themselves and the threats of the just activity inside the building, which in itself was disgusting. But doesn't that say something about, and I know this is at the end of the day, this is a spiritual battle, but there's such an outcry for a spirit of death more than there is a spirit of life.
Well, when you figure that we've had, you know, over 55 million abortions, and you have so many women and men who have been there, and my experience, what I've seen in over 18 years of doing this, is either people seek forgiveness and they become pro-life, or they remain pro-choice or pro-abortion just to justify where they've been and what they've done. It's all they can do. And the schizophrenic nature of, you know, saying that a child, you can end its life at 20 weeks, where just not even 2 weeks later or 1 week later, that child is saved. So is it a life or is it not? And that's right. They're kind of at a point now saying, yes, it is a life, but it just doesn't matter.
The majority of Texans want this bill.
Yes.
And I guess even on the national scale, it polled very high, above 50%. So is there
close to 60?
Is there a turn?
You know, I'm just not sure. It's going to be interesting that, you know, the way the media, the mainstream media spins things. You know, they keep it focused on women, but with Gosnell happening and what is it, Leroy Carhart, wasn't he the other physician in Texas?
Yeah. Which, by the way, was grossly different than even Gosnell, as bad as his were.
Yes, worse than Gosnell. Yeah. And if the media would just really focus on that. To my understanding, the United States is the only country that has legalized late-term abortion. Other countries it happens, but we're the ones who, it's legal. There's nothing wrong with it. It's okay in every state of the nation, and at the very least there should be some limits. Now that life at 20 weeks is no less a life than it is 2 days after conception in my mind, but we need to at least start with some limitations somewhere, and the concern is if we even have any kind of limitations at all, that it's going to take that right away from women. So.
Now, I understand they're fearing in the Senate, if it comes to the Senate, because supposedly Harry Reid, who is a Democrat from Nevada, says he's pro-life. And if he was presented with the bill that no abortion after 20 weeks, it may be the test of his potential political career.
Yeah. There's a lot riding on it. It'll be really interesting to see what happens.
That's wonderful. Well, listen, thank you again for what you're doing, and thank you for being on top of SB 490. It still could pop up, so we're going to keep an eye on that.
Yes, it could.
And thank you for all that you guys are doing over there with the Grants Pass pregnancy.
We keep doing what we can, one life at a time.
One life at a time. Well, that's what it's all about.
Yes,
thank you, sweetheart. All right,
thank you.
Talk to you soon. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, today we are honored to have with us William Perry Pendley. He's the President and Chief Legal Officer of the Mountain States Legal Foundation and former Marine Corps captain. He also served in the Reagan administration as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Energy and Minerals at the Department of Interior, and the author of this book, Sagebrush Rebel. You know, you got to get a copy of this. Reagan's Battle with Environmental Extremists and Why It Matters Today. William, nice to have you. Where are you, my friend? Where are we Skyping you in from?
You're taking me in from my home in Evergreen, Colorado. Thank you.
Nice to have you with us today. Fascinating book, fascinating argument, and now you were also really instrumental in some of the policies during the Reagan administration as it relates to energy and minerals, right?
Absolutely. I had the privilege of helping to change the way we do the Outer Continental Shelf oil and gas leasing program. We went from a program that operated as a monopolist in which a handful of tracts were made available to a program that made the entire Outer Continental Shelf available wherever industry thought there might be an opportunity to develop energy. And as a result, oil and gas development in the Outer Continental Shelf, especially in the Gulf of Mexico, took off. And I'm proud to have been a part of that. I had the backing of the Secretary and certainly the backing of the President of the United States. And the program we put in place back in the 80s is still in place today, except for the fact that President Obama has closed almost every area in the Outer Continental Shelf. He's left a few areas open. Reagan had the entire Outer Continental Shelf open, so that was a big change.
All right, so how would you describe the former president's battle with extreme environmentalists?
I think it's the beginning of what we know today as the big battle, that the environmental movement is now an arm of the Democratic Party. It does things not because it's concerned about the environment, but because it wants Democrat policies in place. Furthermore, it is not a hopeful or an optimistic way of thinking. They're pessimists, they're neo-Malthusians, and Reagan saw all of that. Reagan called them environmental extremists. He also called them modern-day Luddites. And that all began back in the 80s. Environmentalists had their way in the 60s and the 70s, and Reagan came in and said, well, we're not going to do what you want to do anymore. We're going to put people into the environmental equation. And environmentalists, of course, they say, oh, people are part of the problem. People are at war with the planet, and people don't have any hope for the future. We just need to use less and hope we survive. And Reagan was not about that. Reagan was optimistic. And so the battles that Reagan took on back in 1981 through 88 are the battles we're still facing today.
All right. Now, he obviously, his policies protected the environment. I guess you could almost say he was a conservationist, wouldn't you say that?
Absolutely conservationist. That's the term that Reagan knew. That's the term that Teddy Roosevelt used.
Right.
And the battle back in the old days, back in the day, as we say, was between conservationists who said we want to conserve, which means wise use, and the preservationists who say we want to keep it unchanged and just to look at and enjoy. But at the center of both philosophies was human beings. With the conservationists, it was the human need for fiber and food and water. And with regard to the preservationists, the human need for spiritual enrichment, an opportunity to get close to nature and thus close to God. But that all changed in the 60s and the 70s. It became, the environmentalists said, oh, it's not what man needs. It's all about the planet's need, or Mother Earth, or Gaia,
right,
or those kinds of things. And but Reagan was a true environmentalist. He loved the out of doors. He felt close to God when he was in the out of doors. And he said he made more wilderness areas than any president in history. He restored the national parks. He brought them up to code. He brought more lands into the Park Service and into the wildlife refuge system than any president. So he was a great conservationist, great protector of our public lands. But the environmentalists couldn't admit that, because if he was right about that, well, gosh, maybe he was right about oil and gas and mining and all those good things.
All right, so obviously his policies, which you had a great part of formulating, created the template that we can use today to kickstart this thing again. I mean, I know we got an extreme president right now that's trying to unwind everything. In fact, right here in Oregon, as you probably know, William, we're fighting this like crazy, as you can imagine, in the forest, and we're watching our forest burn up, and then we can't get in there and clean it up. I mean, you know the battle, you know the argument, but the President Reagan's policy is a template that we can go back to, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I set it out in my book, Sagebrush Rebel, chapter by chapter, onshore oil and gas, offshore oil and gas, coal, strategic minerals, all the issues. And at the end of every chapter, after talking about what Reagan believed and what Reagan did, and he always did what he believed, which is unique, I think, among politicians. At the end of every chapter, I say, okay, that was then. What's going on now, and what do we need to do about it? And I think there's a great hope. I mean, this revival of our natural gas production in this country, which is taking place only on state and private lands, not on federal lands, would have been fully anticipated by Reagan, because he said the oil industry is not a monopoly. It's the small independent producers that find and discover stuff, and they do it with unconventional techniques. And this hydraulic fracturing that we're using to great effect is a demonstration of Reagan's great confidence in human beings and our ability to overcome adversity and create jobs and opportunity. And the great tragedy of Obama, in my view, is that the minority community loves Obama, but he's really killing them with regard to his economic policies, with his unemployment rate. And of course, the gas revival is one example of how Reagan policies can bring economic recovery.
Do you think that just gas prices alone are going to force us to reconsider our own capabilities of being self-sustaining when it comes to energy?
I think that not necessarily gas prices, but certainly the jobs. There's a man by the name of Harold Hamm. He's the guy primarily responsible for the Bakken miracle in North Dakota. He's a multimillionaire as a realist, started out of poverty, frankly. And he happened to meet with President Obama, and he said, Mr. President, I want you to know about the amazing technological transformation in the oil and gas industry and what a marvelous job it's doing. And Obama just brushed him aside, and he said, oh, I have Secretary Chu here, who says in 5 years we'll have batteries and we won't need oil and gas anymore. And Hamm came out of that meeting and he said, even if you believe that nonsense, why would you want to do away with the economic benefit that oil and gas activity is producing? A great example of that is in Pennsylvania. You look at northern Pennsylvania, and it's an economy booming because of natural gas production. Just across the state line in New York, people are in poverty. They're losing their homes because the governor will not allow development. I used to think that the worst thing Yoko Ono ever did was kill the Beatles. And now I think the worst thing she's ever done is condemn the people of upstate New York to poverty because of her radical views on natural gas development.
You know, President Reagan kind of jumped away from this term called bipartisan or bipartisan consensus as it relates to, well, several things, but in particular the Outer Continental Shelf. If he had not done that, probably that program never would have gotten off the ground. I mean, he just went out and become a pioneer and did it.
Oh, he absolutely did, and against the greatest attack on a president for a major policy that you've ever seen. The Democrats in Congress went nuts, the environmentalists went nuts, the mainstream media, what we would call today the mainstream media, was absolutely apoplectic about it. But nobody's changed it since, because frankly, it works. Jimmy Carter essentially made available about this much Outer Continental Shelf lands. Reagan released this much. When you look at the chart in my book, it's just possibly mind-boggling what Reagan did, and it drove the industry into the deep, deep water in the Gulf of Mexico. And the miracle, the miraculous discoveries we've seen in the Outer Continental Shelf since Reagan's day is traceable directly to one decision, the decision by Reagan to release the entire Outer Continental Shelf to a search for energy.
It appears to me your book is really the resource that is needed now to go back to this argument. Look at, we've had other people kind of get in and out of this, as you know. Other governors, governor from Alaska and others have gone down this road a little bit. But if there is a turnover in Congress, if we do get a conservative Congress or president again, your book becomes the textbook by what can be done.
It absolutely is the textbook, because as one commentator on Amazon.com commented about my book, he said it's both anecdotal and analytical. And on the analytical part, I tell stories, interesting stories. It's not inside baseball stuff. Don't worry about, oh, you're going to get into the weeds. Perry's going to get into the weeds on this. Absolutely not. It's interesting tales, but I back it up analytically. I got 1,234 footnotes spread over 193 pages to give that sort of ammunition that you talk about to congressional leaders, governors, and public policy think tanks to say, hey, here it is. This is what we ought to be doing right now. And if the Republicans take the Senate and have their wits about them next year, then maybe we can have some of this stuff going forward with override margins.
What was the President Reagan's view on water usage? You know, that's quite an argument between Indians and farmers and power companies and forestry people. You know the drill there. What was his position on water?
Well, he was coming from, of course, he's from Illinois, grew up, spent his young adulthood in Iowa as a radio broadcaster, and then, of course, a Californian. So he's well aware of the water issue. But he was committed to property rights. That's the key aspect you can say about Reagan. And at the same time, not just property rights for non-Indians, but property rights for American Indians. Reagan, as governor, vetoed a dam that was proposed. The entire state bureaucracy supported the dam. Yeah, let's build the dam. And Reagan was informed that it would violate a treaty with American Indians. And he said, we've broken enough treaties. We're not going to break this treaty. So I think it'd come down to property rights. Who had, under the prior appropriation doctrine, under the beneficial use doctrine, who has control? And one of the things that Reagan did, Jimmy Carter tried to seize control of Western water. He had his top lawyer at the Department of Interior write an opinion that said, we're in control of Western water, and to heck with you folks out there. You used to control it, but now we're in charge. Yeah. And the first thing that Reagan's Interior Secretary Jim Watt did was his solicitor, his top lawyer, wrote an opinion reversing that. And you know, when I talk about this, the sagebrush rebel, and when you talk about water, you're talking sagebrush rebel stuff, and it's going on today. Yeah. It's not a partisan issue. Democratic governors like Babbitt of Arizona, Lamb of Colorado, Matheson of Utah, Hirschler of Wyoming, all Democrats, hated the Andrus Carter policies on the West.
Wow.
And we're seeing that sagebrush rebellion today, Bob.
Hey, I want to get you back. Fascinating. Thank you for your work. And again, the book is entitled Sagebrush Rebel. Check it out. William Perry Pendley. There's a picture there. And let me encourage you to get you back. Fascinating discussion. It's the heart of a lot of things that we're doing here in Oregon. God bless you, my friend.
So much. Thank you so much. Great to be with you.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and hey, we have somebody in the studio that's not normally in front of the camera. He's always behind the camera. Michael Brown's with us. Michael is the channel manager of theDove TV, and here to talk about the Dove app and all the other things that we're getting involved in. Michael, so many things. I mean, the technology is amazing.
It is amazing. Well, good morning. I mean, we're pretty excited about the app. We were on air a few weeks ago announcing the launch of it, and one of the things that we're particularly excited about with the app is it's not just for the iPhone and iPad, but also for the Android, and for the longest of time. So theDove has been able to be streamed. You have been able to go to a website and watch a live stream of theDove on the iPhone and iPad for a couple of years. Yeah. But for the longest of time, people were saying, well, when will I be able to watch it on my Android? And we've been saying, well, we're working on it. Well, we worked on it, and it's finally going. And we've been getting some fantastic response for people watching it on their Android, and we're looking at the numbers. We can see we don't know where they're from, but the number of people that have downloaded the app, it's huge, and people are discovering it all the time.
So what you do, it's real simple. If you have an iProduct, you go to the App Store and you just type in theDove, and that is one word, TheDove, and you'll pop up and you can download it there. And if you have an Android, you just go to Google Play and again type in theDove, one word, TheDove, and you can download it there. It is a free download for your tablets and your phone, and we have been getting some very interesting response. But here's what's so interesting. We've had some people in the industry look at our app and say, simple and powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And I think what we've really tried to do is capture the essence of what we do here at the Dove, what we do as a ministry on the Dove Radio, the Dove TV. It encompasses everything. So you can listen to the Dove Radio live stream, you can watch the Dove TV live stream, but we've also got, you can watch our on-demand products. So this program that we're recording now, it'll be on the app within 2 or 3 hours. Or if you wanted to watch the morning show, or Bob Gass with the Word for You Today or Call to Worship. So we've got all of the programs there. Plus, we've got all the great ways that you can connect with us, and a lot of people are doing that. They're going there and they're saying, hey, they discover the app and they see the button there that says, I can get a free devotional, I can get a copy of the Word for You Today. Or they can say, hey, you know what, I'm on the road, I want to contact the Dove. Well, there's a button there, you can send us a text message, or it has our phone number so you can call us, or just send us a message or a prayer request.
And you can even support us on the Dove. By the way, and that if you choose to support us through your phone or your tablet, and thank you for doing that, it's totally secure.
Well, it's secure because what it does, it links through to our secure, it'll take you from the app to their secure web page, to the company that does the secure transactions. We don't see the credit cards, but they process that securely, so it really is wonderful.
And again, you can listen to the Word for You Today audio portion, like you hear every morning when we play it on the radio. And you can also ask for the published edition. If you don't have the Word for You Today, you can fill out a little form there and we'll send it to you. There is Michael right now. There's me right now. We're watching ourselves on our phone and on the iPad. I mean, the technology is just mind-boggling what can be done. So let me encourage you. Here's what you do. You go to the App Store if you have an iProduct and just type in the Dove and you can download it free there. And if you have an Android product, you just go to Google Play and type in the Dove and you can download it there. Now, one other little announcement. I shouldn't say it's little because the work behind the scenes, Michael, I don't know, you have an analytical mind that just amazing. But I don't know how many hours you spent to get the app up. It's several months.
We have another announcement as well, and this is the first time we've mentioned this on air. We're in the beginning stages of launching a Roku channel. Now, if you have a Roku, you'll know what it is. If you don't, you can Google it. It's the #1 streaming set-top box in America, and there are over 600 free channels available. And very soon, the Dove channel will be publicly available. And we've just launched the private channel there. It's a beta channel for testing, but you can access that now if you have a Roku, and you can watch the Dove on your TV as it streams through the internet. And again, there are a whole lot of on-demand interviews, so interviews that we've recorded earlier in the week you'll be able to find there. And the best way to
how do they get
how
that?
do they get that? Well, at the moment, very soon we'll have some information on our website. We have put, for those that are interested, there is a link to it on our Facebook page. So you can go to our Facebook page, and if you're not sure how to find our Facebook page, go to our website and then link to it. And what it is, it's a private channel, it's a beta channel, and we want people to try it out to see how it's going, and we're working on seeing if we can launch that as a public channel as soon as we can. So that's really exciting. If anyone has seen the Roku, the number of things, I mean, a lot of people will use it for watching Netflix or Amazon Prime Instant Video. A whole lot of news channels. There's a whole lot of Christian ministries and wonderful churches. They all have their channels there, so you can watch the services from your favorite preachers whenever you want. And of course, now you'll be able to watch the Dove channel, the Dove Roku channel, on there as well.
Well, there you go. So if you don't know what Roku is, let me encourage you to just Google it and check it out. But where the industry is going is that you get these little boxes that tap into your internet service at your home that makes all these channels available through your TV. And Roku, I forget, what's the subscription? In the millions.
It is in the millions. I think one of the interesting things about it is that it's a one-off purchase for the box. It either costs $50 through to $99, so $49 through $99. And there's no subscription fee. It's not like a cable or satellite subscription. It's free. I mean, you have to buy the box, and it's going to cost you maybe $49 or maybe $99, depending which one you get.
And it basically can get everything that you're getting off of cable or satellite. All those channels are there, and it's growing. It's just growing. So I don't know how long we'll actually be on their menu, but it's not far out.
Yeah, there's a bit of work for us to do, and it's up to Roku about which channels that they will make publicly available. But what we can do as a start is make a link to it from our website, and we'll have that there very soon. It's on our Facebook page at the moment, and you can click the link and you can get your exclusive Dove channel on the Roku, which is a great option for people who, they maybe don't live in the coverage area to get off UHF 44 on the antenna, or maybe they don't happen to have charter because they're on a contract with another company at the moment. This is a really good option.
Well, there you go. And I did some traveling over the weekend, and I had the iPad with me, and I brought up our television channel. In fact, I don't recommend this by any means, but Peggy brought it up while we were in the car and watched it, and so there it is. And so it's amazing, and it's so fast. Look at that, click, 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 and there he is. So you're actually walking about a half a second to 2 second delay right now.
Well, the iPads are a little bit slower. They have a little bit more delay, but if you want to see what you did 30 seconds ago, you can have a look.
So again, let me just kind of recap this. Here's what you do. If you want the Dove app for your phone, your smartphone, or your tablet. If you have an iProduct, you go to the App Store and type in the Dove, and it's a free download. If you have an Android product, you go to the Google Play Store or Google Play and type in the Dove, again, one word, and it's a free download for there. And if you have a Roku box and you want to get the Dove TV and other back programs from Roku, go to the Dove Facebook page, and there you'll see...
we'll have the link and the code to be able to access that there. And you know what? We'd love your feedback as well. We're in the testing phase for it, and we really want to hear from you about how well it works for you and what your experience with it is, and that'll really help us as we continue to develop it.
Yeah, it's really an incredible tool that I believe the Lord has dropped into our hands during these times in which we live, because so many people now are into this technology, and more and more information is coming out. To reach people, you got to be involved in these platforms, and that's what it's about. We're trying to do everything we can to be everywhere we can to reach as many people as we can with the programming that God has entrusted us with the Dove Radio and TV. So when you get this information, share with others. Share with it. Tell your family and your friends. I mean, the more this gets out, the more it gets moved up into the system, and the more people can get exposed to it. So, again, check it out at the App Store. Type in the Dove, or Google Play. Type in the Dove, and you got the Dove app. And then again, Roku.
The Roku channel. You can get the private, exclusive test release of it. There's a link for it on our Facebook page. And very soon you'll be able to see it on our website as well, and we'd love to hear your Facebook on it.
Yeah,
your feedback on it.
Yeah, through the Facebook if you want to.
Through the Facebook.
Hey, thank you, Michael, and
thank
you for supporting the Dove and all that we do. We can't do this without your help. So thanks for being a part of what we do here and reaching as many people as we can with God's love and grace. God bless you.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.